So the USA just released their September roster for the upcoming friendlies against Japan and South Korea in anticipation of next year's home-hosted 2026 World Cup. And I'm going to give it to you guys straight. It is absolutely disgusting. But before I get into it, make sure to let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this roster, what changes you would make, what you like, dislike, all those things. I will read and react to as many as we can. Now, for those who haven't seen it, I'm going to name off the list right here. I'll put it to the side of me, whether it's this side or this side, I'm not quite sure. Starting from goal to attack. 3 goalkeepers this time: Roman Celentano, Matt Fries, and Jonathan Klinsmann. In defense, Max Arfson, Noah Kai Banks, Tristan Blackman, Serginho Dest, Alex Freeman, Nathan Harriel, Tim Ream, and Chris Richards. Midfield, Tyler Adams, Sebastian Berhalter, Luca De La Torre, Diego Luna, Jack McGlynn, and Sean Zawadzki. And in attack, Damian Downs, Christian Pulisic, Josh Sargent, Tim Weah, and Alex Zendejas. So let's start this one off on a positive note, right? Which we don't typically do with these call-ups. Now, I'm going to say it's not going to last that long, but let's start off with the positives. 2 players here that I really, really like and I'm glad are here for I think the first or second time: Noah Kai Banks and Jonathan Klinsmann. Noah Kai Banks, I have really high hopes for him being a future starting center back for the U.S. men's national team. Probably not by 2026 World Cup, but maybe the 2030 World Cup. I do think he's going to be a big, big player for the USA come then. And Jonathan Klinsmann, he's been shown out in the second division of Italy for the stupid state that the U.S. men's national team goalkeepers are in right now. I am happy that he is involved and we can see maybe someone else, given that he gets game time. I'm sure Matt Fries is probably going to start both games, but I do hope that Klinsmann gets at least one. And maybe by 2026 World Cup, he could be in the running for starting goalkeeper for the entire tournament. 2 more players I am excited to see here as well: Alex Zendejas, Josh Sargent. For Josh, I do think he should have been in that Gold Cup roster. I am still a little upset that he wasn't. And I think generally, no matter how bad he generally is for the U.S. men's national team, that would have been a great tournament for him to be involved in to get it going for the team. But he has started the championship season with Norwich City absolutely on fire. Last time I checked, I believe it was 4 goals in 4 games so far. So he fully deserves to be here. Absolutely. And he should honestly be the starting striker here for these games against Japan and South Korea. Zendejas has been lighting it up for America in Mexico for a while now. He isn't at his peak of that era, unfortunately, anymore. And I do think he should have, or he fully deserved to get calls before this one. But I'm happy he's here now. Maybe he shows us that he still has it and can become a more important player for the U.S. men's national team. I don't know if he'll make the 2026 World Cup. Personally, I don't think so. But who knows? Maybe he's here for a reason. Maybe he performs well and gets a spot on that team. With that being said, those 4 players, positive. That is pretty much the only positives I have for this round of call-ups. I guess you can say maybe Pulisic being back here is a positive, but with all that's been going on with the documentary and how the Gold Cup ended up and all these things, is that really positive? That's up to you to decide. Now we can move into the negatives, and trust me, this is going to be the bulk of the video here, so bear with me. Let me just name off, first of all, who is not here with this team, who Poch decided not to call up, that I think should be here and are healthy, mind you, and are healthy. Weston McKennie, Johnny Cardoso, Yunus Musa, Tanner Tessman, Joe Scally, Mark McKenzie, Matt Turner. I'm okay with that one not being here, but I'm surprised he actually isn't because he normally is. Aiden Morris, John Tolkien, Brandon Aronson, George Campbell, CCV, Austin Trusty, James Sands, Cole Campbell. You could even throw Balogun in. I mean, he did just come back from injury, but keyword is he came back. He's not still injured. So I do think he maybe deserved around here. Any one of those players could have been in this roster, and I would have been very, very, very happy about it. For a coach, for a team, for an organization, a federation, whatever, that preaches that they want to be testing players, looking at players, that's what these friendlies are supposedly for, despite the fact that we only have 4 international breaks up until that World Cup, last my count. At this point, most international teams that are going to be involved in that World Cup will have a set starting 11 by now, a generally set team, whatever. I'll get into that in a little bit. Any one of those players deserved a look. And many of those players have not been involved in camps, in recent camps, Gold Cup and beyond. So I stress even more, they probably deserved a look and are not here. But players that are here in this roster that I don't think deserve to be here at all, at least not in lieu of the list of players I mentioned, Tristan Blackman is here, which was, funnily enough, spoiled by Thomas Muller. And I do think that because of that, we're not seeing as big of an outrage right now because of it. Nathan Harriel, I don't think should be here. Didn't look good, in my opinion, in the last camp he was here. I don't think he's that good for a club, in my opinion, or at least not good enough to represent your team 4 breaks before the World Cup. Luca De La Torre, He's not having an amazing season with San Diego FC, at least not one that warrants him being here. He's a solid player, but I mentioned the fact that Weston, Johnny, and Eunice, and Tanner Tesman for that matter, are all not here. Four midfielders that I do think are in front of De La Torre in the depth chart for the U.S. Men's national team. So I don't understand why he's here and they're not. And Sean Zawadski in the same realm as the midfield argument there. Why is he here as well? Both of those players I don't think deserve to be a part of this U.S. men's national team anymore. Again, at least not in lieu of the players I mentioned in that list. If you are an MLS like absolute fanatic and you really like these players, I get it. I understand maybe wanting to see them represent the USA, but even then, you cannot say that they deserve to be here over those four midfielders. Probably another one or two out there that I haven't even mentioned that should be here. And the reasonings we're getting for these players not being here from Pochettino, they're just so dumb in my opinion. And it's very obvious he's just trying to come up with excuses. I still don't know if it's his decision. I don't know if it's Don Garber's decision. I don't know if it's the Federation as a whole. Obviously, everybody involved, which it seems like there's more than just one person involved, just more than the coach, Pochettino, are at fault here for this starting 11. I mean, Poch is out here saying that no Cardoso because he just moved to Atletico Madrid and hasn't adapted yet. Like, that is so dumb to me. He just came off a really good season with Real Betis where he was a top 2 DM in the entire La Liga. You brought him up for the Gold Cup and didn't even choose to play him, which I do think if he played in that Gold Cup, you wouldn't feel as against him being here in this camp, right? And he just moved to one of the biggest clubs in Spain, one of the biggest clubs in Europe. I don't know. It's so stupid. That is such a dumb excuse for me that he hasn't adapted to one of the best clubs in the world, so he can't play 2 friendlies. Which, by the way, even if he did get called up, you probably wouldn't play him anyway. So what's the big deal for Pochettino? And then they said for Weston McKennie is we already know him as a player, so he doesn't. Let's look at other players. That is so dumb. That is absolutely dumb. And I'm going to use that as a segue to talk about these upcoming friendlies more. And we will have more in-depth like preview and predictions. So make sure to subscribe for that come next week, like as we get closer to those matches. But like I said, you're playing against Japan and South Korea, right? Two Asian opponents on top of the AFC charts over there, and two teams that you cannot treat as trial runs for this team. There are many countries out there. I'm not going to name any off because of, I don't want to disrespect them if you're a fan of, those countries by chance. But Japan and South Korea are not teams that you can disrespect by playing D-level players against them. Japan is an amazing team, by far and away the best team in Asia, and I could 100% see them finishing in a quarterfinal, pushing for a semifinal in the World Cup. That, in my opinion, is how good they are going into this World Cup cycle. South Korea, not as good as they once were. They are dealing with a lot of coaching issues and a lot of, behind the scenes kind of deal, but they're still a very, very good team with class players that, again, the USA should not be disrespecting and should take very seriously for the simple reason that you might play them in the World Cup. And if not for them, you're going to play very similar caliber teams in that World Cup, which is what this next year of friendlies is supposed to be for. That's the reason they're playing a lot of CONMEBOL teams. Some European teams are going to be thrown in there, and of course, Asian teams. You want to get an overall view of what your opponents are going to look like in this next tournament. So for them to be taking these D-level players to play against them is absolutely outrageous. I mean, just in that game against Japan, Japan versus USA is going to look like a Pearl Harbor reenactment. I can say that. My great grandfather was there and he survived. For the USA side, I might add, I know it's hard to tell by looking at me, but it's going to be bad in my opinion. Like the team that Japan's going to put out there, again, which should be the starting 11, the A squad against Zawadzki and De La Torre in the midfield, it's going to make the USA look really, really bad again. And you know what? Mexico at the same time, right? Mexico are playing the exact same opponents, obviously in opposite order in this window. That is the nature of these friendlies generally the next few months and even like up until that World Cup, just to make it easier for these teams to travel less and less because they're all going to be hosted in the USA. You think Mexico is going to go into this with D level players, with average Liga MX players besides Charlie Rodriguez and Jorge Sanchez? No, they're going to go into this with a starting 11. El Machin's going to be there. Raul is going to be playing. Johan Vasquez is going to be starting that back line as captain. They're going to have their A team playing against Japan. And that's why that game in its own is going to be amazing. And again, we're going to have a video on that later on. But that is what you should be doing less than a year before your home hosted World Cup. I mean, you wonder why nobody goes to these games, right? Like, why would they go when they're going to be watching Luca De La Torre in the USA shirt instead of the best players who are playing for some top clubs in the world, Atletico Madrid, Juventus, just to name a couple, Premier League teams, Bundesliga teams. And you wonder why no one is going to your games, why no one feels a sense of excitement before probably the most important World Cup for the USA since 1994. It's because you're treating it like a joke. You're treating a lot of these players like a joke. I don't know how I would feel if I was Weston McKennie or Johnny Cardoso or one of those players who were absolutely disrespected by the US men's national team and Pochettino by not getting a call up here. And you can say this whole, we're using these to look at players, blah, blah, blah. I get that at least a little bit, but that is what you use up until this summer to do. And even that point, you just go scout the damn players. You go to these games and watch the players. How is it that the rest of us know how bad these players are relative to the playing field, whether that's the rest of the US men's national team depth or the rest of the world? How do we all know how bad these players are, but the USSF and Pochettino continue to bring them in, acting as if they might be, a savior? I mean, I'm exaggerating, but they might be a really important player come the World Cup, or they might earn a World Cup spot. No, none of those players that I mentioned earlier, Blackman, Zawadzki, De La Torre, so on and so forth, are going to get a World Cup spot. At least they should not. They really shouldn't. You should be using this time for players like Noah Kyle Banks, which again, I'm very happy about. Cole Campbell, bring him in. Younger guys who are really obviously going to be future important stars for this team. And instead of bringing these mid peak of their career MLS lifers into the fold. And you know what? I'm sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful at all to those players. And if you're an MLS fanatic, again, don't be mad at me, or do. But that is just the nature of the beast. It is a joke. Every single time these windows get released, these rosters get released, every single friendly window, it is very obvious that something is wrong somewhere. Either the MLS has way too big of a hand in team selection, which is very, very obvious that's going to happen, or Poch genuinely doesn't know what he's doing with his team. How do we not have a set starting 11 by pretty much September before the World Cup? That does not make sense to me. Almost every single national team in the world that's going to be there, or at least is planning on being there, knows what starting 11 they're going to have right now. Not much is going to change between now and then, right? MLS is going to have a long offseason between now and then. So I don't get it. I really, really do not understand what the thought process is. Come October, maybe we see a little bit better of a roster, which we should. And if we don't, that is a huge red flag, a huge warning sign for the year to come and the tournament to come. That might make me feel a little bit better. But you had the Gold Cup roster fiasco, which again was already bad in itself. It was really already bad in itself. So you think you would kind of make up for that, right? You think you would use that last major tournament to scout these players, which again shouldn't have been. But if that's the way you wanted to go, that should have been it. That should have been the last thing. You had a lot of MLS players being involved there. That is it. All those MLS players that were involved, I think, regardless of whether they should have been there or not, if you had to have MLS players involved that were on the cusp of being with the U.S. men's national team, he called them up. He gave him playing time in the Gold Cup already. Now you're bringing on just even deeper players here for September. It doesn't make sense to me at all. Mexico and Canada, you think they're going to take these friendlies as much of a joke as we are leading into that World Cup? No, absolutely not. You know that, we all know that for a fact. So why are the USA doing it? And it's not because they're the best team by far. They can afford to do this. Their D team players are as good as Canada's A team players. No, all that is false. No, we just don't know. It's very obvious that they just don't know what they're doing, or that they do know what they're doing and what they're doing is really bad. There is no alternative. No one can sit here and say that this is a good idea. These are good call-ups. Poch is absolutely hitting out of the park with these decisions. I really can't get around it. But I digress. If you have a different opinion or the same opinion, let me know in the comments down below. I will read and react to as many as I can for you guys. And if you guys want content surrounding these friendlies, future friendlies, World Cup, everything, we got it for you guys. So make sure to subscribe, hit the like button as well, turn notifications on and whatnot. My name is Elijah. Hopefully we see you guys in future videos in better spirits. And yeah, see you guys later. Take care.